As a mentor of professional training courses for the past few years, I have often come across a very significant question, and majorly this was asked by the people who have not been into the domain of IT as their prior experience. And the question goes in this way, that do I believe the people who are not from the domain of IT, they can make a move to the domain of IT by undergoing a training course with any institution or a training organization? The answer is yes. But we have to take into account a particular thing over here, that you are trying to compete with the people who have been into the domain of IT for past X amount of years. Now, in case you try to compete with people who have already been into the domain and you still try to win the race, you must put some extra efforts. These extra efforts are not in terms of time or toil, but this extra efforts is really in terms of keeping yourself in a way where you can start thinking in the terms of IT. What do you mean by starting thinking in the terms of IT? Let us try to understand with an example. Let's assume you belong to a banking domain. Whichever bank you might be working in, there is a high possibility that your bank is also using the net banking facility. Let us try to analyze that how does the net banking work. So a customer opens up his laptop and he basically writes down www.yourbankname.com/netbanking probably, and then they have to enter their customer ID or their user ID and the password, so that is the authentication that is happening, and ultimately they can log in into the bank website and they can probably see their balances, they can do some fund transfers, and they can pay the bill for their credit card or certain activity they can do. Now, when we are trying to take a customer to the bank website, that is a website. That is an application that is built for the customer to see and do the task. When the customer enters his name and the password, that particular thing is sent to a database to cross-verify. And once it goes to the database and it is cross-verified and it turns out to be a correct credential, the person is allowed to enter the net banking domain. And within that portal, he can now go ahead and he can perform his transactions, which is once again at every single step going to be cross-verified with the database to figure out whether or not they are doing some mistakes and all those things. Every single thing is cross-verified at every single point. So you can understand, even though you consider yourself to be a bank employee, but if you know this net banking process, you already are oriented with an IT process. Every single business has an IT front. And if you know that business, if you understand how that business works, you already understand a little bit of IT. Maybe not from the technical perspective, but you definitely do from the functionality perspective. And trust me, this much knowledge is absolutely okay to get started with the training courses of, let's say, cloud computing, or maybe of data analytics, or maybe of learning Java, or maybe whatever. You just need to know that what is the big picture that you are ultimately trying to gain out of the process that you are trying to take up over there. Because every single thing that happens in IT is to support a business. And if you know how the functionality works, then you are already better than the people who, let's say, have been spending a lot of time into the IT department and just been writing codes without having an understanding of the entire picture. That should give you enough motivation and enough confidence to get enrolled into the courses of IT-based subjects without having any further hesitation. I believe this video was helpful to you. Make sure to spread your words across the people that you feel will be benefited out of this. Thank you so much. See you in course.